Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Pakistan Army has killed 9 terrorists and arrested another during an intelligence-based operation in North Waziristan district. In a statement, the military's media wing said 2 soldiers were martyred and 5 others wounded in the operation. Inter-Services Public Relations said Lance Naik Abdul Wahid and Sepoy Sakum Dad were martyred. It said the forces acted on credible information about the presence of terrorists in Khaisura and Dusali areas. ISPR said weapons and ammunition were also recovered from the area by the troops. In Pakistan, 3 more people have lost their lives to COVID-19, increasing the tally to 272. The Health Ministry reported over 380 infection cases in the last 24 hours. The total number of coronavirus cases in the country has crossed 13,106. Earlier, the Health Ministry said 81% of the infection cases are locally transmitted, while 19% have a history of foreign travel. The ministry said nearly 2,900 people have recovered so far, while 78 patients are in critical condition. It's 717 hospitals with facilities to tackle COVID-19 patients are operational across the country. Several European countries are looking to ease restrictions after witnessing a decrease in COVID-19 related deaths. Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte says the country will start reopening its manufacturing industry on 4th of May, while Spain will begin gradually easing stay-at-home restrictions on 2nd of May.
After 6 weeks stuck at home, Spain's children were allowed out to run, play or go for a walk. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is set to resume full-time duties on Monday after spending a fortnight recovering from the coronavirus. Saudi Arabia's King Salman has ordered the partial lifting of a curfew in all regions of the kingdom except in Makkah and Medina. India allowed a limited reopening of shops in neighborhoods and residential areas a month after the country went into lockdown. Israel allowed some businesses to reopen and said it was considering letting children return to school as part of trial efforts to ease restrictions. This comes as the global COVID-19 death toll crosses 203,000 with over 2.9 million confirmed cases.
Well, moving on to Afghanistan, where the tribal elders have said 7 government forces personnel are killed in a Taliban attack in the country's eastern Logar province. Local security officials have not yet commented on the attack. Talking to media, tribal elders said the incident took place in the Barak district after the Taliban attacked a security forces checkpoint. They said 4 other security personnel were taken captive by the group. Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid didn't confirm or deny the attack, but he tweeted that a member of the Logar security forces joined the group voluntarily. Meanwhile, the Taliban say demanding a ceasefire in Afghanistan at a time when the opposition is not executing its obligations is illogical. In a statement, the group said it has executed its responsibilities regarding peace and end of hostilities in Afghanistan. The group said the Doha deal called for release of 6,000 prisoners from both the sides within 10 days after signing ceremony. It said according to the deal, a path to the intra-Afghan negotiations must have been opened that will lay the groundwork for peace. This comes after US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad called on the Taliban to hold a humanitarian ceasefire and reduce violence in Ramadan. Khalilzad said both sides must accelerate the release of prisoners amid COVID-19. In India, 3 men have been arrested for gang raping a woman in the state of Rajasthan. The heinous incident took place in a school where the victim was quarantined. More in this report.
The woman was placed in quarantine in the school by police after she got lost walking to her home village. This would make her one of millions of impoverished Indians forced to walk home after being left with no way to earn a living due to the nationwide lockdown. In a statement to the police, the victim said she walked several miles before reaching the locality where she was assaulted. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged citizens to follow all anti-COVID-19 measures. The BJP government in New Delhi announced a nationwide lockdown on 22nd March, just 4 hours before it was implemented. This led to one of the largest exoduses in the subcontinent's history, as millions of daily wage earners tried to get home without any public transport.
Well, several mosques in India's northern Uttar Pradesh state say police have ordered them to stop the call to prayer and use of loudspeakers. Anti-Muslim sentiments are at peak in the country as the Modi government and media continue to blame Muslims for spreading COVID-19. Mosque administrations in Ghazipur and Farrukhabad district said police gave them these orders on the 1st of Ramadan. They said police told them the orders came from the state authorities while threatening them with consequences for disobedience. Meanwhile, the BJP government has managed to deliver its COVID-19 welfare package to only 15% of the poor households. Government data shows that out of 0.2 million tons of pulses, only 30,000 tons have been distributed so far. In Yemen, 5 major provinces have refused to recognize the self-governance of separatist Southern Transitional Council. Earlier, the council announced to establish self-ruled administration in the regions under their control. In a statement, it declared a state of emergency and said it would self-govern the key southern port city of Aden and other southern provinces. Calling the move a withdrawal from the peace deal, Yemen's government warned the council of dangerous consequences. Foreign Minister Mohammad al-Hadrami said SDC's announcement means a resumption of its armed insurgency. He warned separatists of dangerous consequences. The division between the two supposed allies is another facet of the country's complicated civil war. On one side are the separatists, on the other are forces loyal to exiled President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the U.S. is deeply troubled over Iran's satellite launch. In a tweet, Pompeo alleged that Tehran's secret space program advances technologies used in nuclear weapons delivery systems. The state secretary said Iran continues to lie that its space program is peaceful, civilian, and transparent. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei has called on Iranians not to be afraid of the United States and other bullying powers. Addressing an event in Tehran, the supreme leader said fear of the U.S. will result in bitter outcomes for Iranians. He called for fearlessness and steadfastness in the face of enemies. Iran has denounced Israel's settlement activities and intention of annexing West Bank with U.S. support. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said these activities are part of U.S. President Donald Trump's disgraceful deal of the century. Spokesperson Abbas Mousavi said such moves violate international laws and threaten regional peace. He called on the UN and other international bodies to counter these moves as defined by their mandate. Mousavi said Israel's occupation forces are exploiting the lockdown spurred by the coronavirus outbreak. Last week, the United Nations and the European Union warned Israel not to annex parts of the occupied West Bank. Thousands of Israelis have demonstrated against the unity government deal that ensures Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in power. The protesters oppose Netanyahu remaining as Prime Minister while he is a criminal suspect. The demonstrators said the agreement will crush democracy as it gives Netanyahu influence over the appointment of judges and the legal officials. They said the power-sharing deal with rival Benny Gantz is meant to rescue Netanyahu from his legal troubles. Gantz says the coronavirus crisis amid the year-long political deadlock forced him to go back on his promise of leading a clean government. Under the banner Save the Democracy, the protesters called on Gantz's Blue and White Party to not join the coalition.
We came to demonstrate for the democracy, for a rule that is not by someone who is accused, who has issues with the law. The person with issues with the law cannot rule a government and cannot appoint judges and cannot appoint ministers. There's a conflict of interest here that is built in the system.
Libya's government of national accord says forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar are continuously attacking civilian settlements in southern Tripoli. This comes as the UN and Europe called for a humanitarian truce in the country in the holy month of Ramadan. In a social media post, the GNA spokesperson said 4 Nigerian workers were wounded in the attack in Tripoli. As part of measures against COVID-19, a ceasefire took effect on 21st of March, but GNA has blamed Haftar's forces of continuous attacks on the capital. Libya has reported 2 deaths from the virus, 61 cases and 15 recoveries. It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Rumors have swirled regarding North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's health following the noticeable absence from state media. Pyongyang has never publicized who would follow Kim in the event. He is incapacitated due to limited details known about his young children. Analysts say his sister and loyalists could form a regency until a successor is old enough to take over. This report has more.
Kim's younger sister, Kim Yo-jong, has been the most visible presence around the leader in the past 2 years. She has a firm control of key party functions, setting herself to be the main source of power behind a collective leadership. Cho Ryong-hae rose to be the North's nominal head of state last year, becoming the president of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly. He and Park Pong-ju, a fellow Politburo member and former state premier, are likely to be the figureheads leading a collective leadership. Kim Kyung-hui was once a powerful figure in the leadership circle when her brother Kim Jong-il ruled the country. She has been ill but briefly appeared early this year at a gala performance alongside her nephew. Kim Han-sol, the 24-year-old son of Kim Jong-nam, the estranged half-brother of Kim Jong-un, who was murdered by North Korean agents in 2017, is expected to remain in exile. Kim Jong-un is believed to have 3 children. The oldest is a 10-year-old son, meaning any of the 3 would need the assistance of their relatives or political guardians if they were to become a 4th-generation hereditary leader.
The US and Russia have issued a rare joint statement commemorating a World War II link-up of their troops to defeat Nazi Germany. US President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin said the 1945 event is an example of how these 2 countries can cooperate. The statement marked the anniversary of a meeting of Soviet soldiers and American troops on a bridge over the Elbe River in Germany. It said the event heralded the defeat of the Nazi regime. The statement read, "Spirit of the Elbe shows how the US and Russia can put aside the differences and cooperate in pursuit of a greater cause." Meanwhile, in an interview, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said before US elections, both the states need to create a mechanism to address concerns. Health authorities in Muslim countries have reported new cases and related deaths from the novel coronavirus. Despite easing lockdown, Middle East is on high alert amid cases growing in number. This report has the details.
Saudi Arabia's King Salman has issued an order to partially lift the curfew in all regions of the kingdom. The state news agency says the king, however, kept a 24-hour curfew in Makkah. The kingdom has announced 9 deaths and almost 1,200 new COVID-19 cases in a day, whereas the death toll has reached 136. Of these cases, 120 were recorded in Medina, 364 in Makkah, 271 in Jeddah, 117 in Riyadh, and 43 in Dammam. Kuwait's health ministry said 278 new cases were confirmed, raising the total to 2,892, with the death toll at 19. Oman's case count reached over 1,900 after 115 more people tested positive. The health ministry said 10 deaths and 329 recoveries have been recorded in the country so far. In Lebanon, there were 704 cases, 24 deaths, and 104 recoveries from the illness. Turkey confirmed 106 more fatalities from the virus over the past 24 hours, bringing the death toll to over 2,700. Ankara's health ministry said the total number of cases surged to over 107,000 as nearly 2,900 more people tested positive. The holy month of Ramadan ushered in relaxed curfew rules in several cities across the region.
In Italy, the COVID-19 crisis in the country's north has created a political crisis for the far right, which has dominated the region for years. This includes Matteo Salvini's anti-European Union League Party, which is considered the country's strongest political outfit. What in this report?
Last year, Matteo Salvini quit PM Giuseppe Conte's coalition government in dramatic fashion in an attempt to force a new election. While there was no new election, Salvini has become a strong opposition figure since then, landing frequent attacks on both Rome and Brussels. But these roles could soon be reversed. Lombardy, the League Party's stronghold, accounts for half of the country's 26,000 COVID-19 related deaths. Over the past 2 months, the area's families have seen their elderly relatives dying in overflowing hospitals, resulting in harsh criticism of the party. It is accused of not being decisive on a policy to tackle the coronavirus, failing to conduct enough testing, and not procuring enough protective equipment. As such, national support for the party has been in free fall since the virus crossed Italian borders. The League and Salvini have weathered political storms before, but none of them were disasters like this, which affected practically all the party's constituents and resulted in thousands of deaths.
In Germany, police wearing riot gear and face masks tussled with dozens in central Berlin protesting against the coronavirus lockdown on public life. The protesters argued with police officers that their constitutional rights had been infringed. Police said on Twitter they had arrested more than 100 people. They said about 180 officers were in place to uphold containment regulations. Officials said health authorities had not given permission for the gathering. They said Germany's coronavirus infection rate needs to fall further to a few hundred cases a day. Chancellor Angela Merkel said she was worried Germans were relaxing their social distancing efforts. Merkel is resisting pressure from some states to go ahead with the easing of restrictions after a partial lockdown lift this week. The G20 countries have launched an initiative to speed up access to health tools needed to fight coronavirus. Saudi Arabia's Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jadaan said the group is still working to bridge an estimated $8 billion funding gap. In a statement, Al-Jadaan said G20 members will continue to cooperate on all fronts. The current chair of the G20 also said the world is still facing extraordinary uncertainty about the depth and duration of this health crisis. Saudi Arabia earlier pledged $500 million to support global efforts to combat the coronavirus pandemic. U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation has launched a probe into the Missouri Islamic Center fire on the first day of Ramadan. The FBI is offering a $5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of the arsonists. Local authorities said a man was captured on a security camera engaging in suspicious activity shortly before the fire began. The blaze broke out at the Islamic Center of Cape Girardeau during the early hours on Friday. Rescue officials said 12 to 15 people escaped injury as they were evacuated, but the damage to the building was extensive. Muslim Advocacy Group Council on American Islamic Relations noted the suspicious timing of the blaze as Thursday night was the beginning of Ramadan. The Republic of South Africa is seeking almost $5 billion from multilateral lenders to help it fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Africa's most advanced economy is talking to the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the African Development Bank to source the funding. The money will be used to contribute a $26 billion rescue package aimed at cushioning the impact of COVID-19 on businesses and poor households. The IMF says South Africa is entitled to apply for up to $4.2 billion in crisis response. Finance Minister Taito Mbavani said the government can negotiate for a facility between $55 and $60 million at the World Bank. South Africa has recorded nearly 4,400 cases and 86 deaths from coronavirus so far. A Spanish Coast Guard vessel has rescued 49 migrants in the Atlantic Ocean. The Coast Guard transported the migrants to the port of Arguineguin in the island of Gran Canaria. The Red Cross said that the dinghy carrying migrants had been traveling for a week before it was intercepted by Spain's Coast Guards. Of the 49 African migrants from mainly Mali and Senegal, 12 are believed to be minors. Overall, irregular arrivals of the migrants to Spain have declined by 20% compared to the same time last year, but the number of irregular arrivals to the Canary Island has increased from 181 arrivals to almost 1,800 from the same time last year. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Germany's Deutsche Bank has turned down calls for sharing of the US President Donald Trump's business dealings. Deutsche's law firm Keen Gump sought legal and contractual boundaries with respect to the confidential information. The bank cited the legal distinction between congressional inquiries and informational requests made by individual members. Earlier, 4 Democratic senators wrote a letter to the CEO of the Deutsche Bank requesting that Trump's financial archives be revealed. The bank remains under investigation by the Justice Department while the US Supreme Court oversees Trump's financial records case. France and the Netherlands will provide an unprecedented taxpayer-funded bailout of about 10 billion euros to salvage Air France KLM. This comes as the Franco-Dutch airline group struggles to stay afloat because of the coronavirus outbreak. ECB Chief Executive Tom Harrison said the body will wait for the coronavirus-related restrictions to be eased. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said Air France KLM will receive a 4 billion euros bank loan backed with the state and a 3 billion euros direct government loan. Le Maire said the support was not a blank check and the governments had set profitability conditions on the carrier. Other major airlines, including Germany's Lufthansa, are also negotiating government aid deals as they grapple with the air travel shutdown. Aviation giant Boeing has pulled out of a $4.2 billion deal to acquire the commercial plane division of its Brazilian rival Embraer. Boeing claimed Embraer was unable to meet the conditions required to close the transaction. But Embraer says Boeing backed out because of the financial problems due to the coronavirus crisis and the grounding of its 737 MAX. It accused Boeing of engaging in a systematic pattern of delay and repeated violations of the agreement. This came hours after a midnight deadline expired with no agreement on how to implement the pact. Embraer said it plans to sue for damages. The UAE and other major Gulf markets have gained on the first trading day of the week as the governments begin easing coronavirus restrictions. Dubai financial market gained almost 2%, led by Emaar Malls, Air Arabia, Dubai Islamic Bank and insurance companies. Abu Dhabi jumped 2% on the back of 14% gain in international holdings and a 5.5% rise in Abu Dhabi shipbuilding. Saudi Arabia's Tadawul surged over 2% after Riyadh also allowed the opening of some economic and commercial activities. Muscat securities market rose fractionally, while Bursa Kuwait jumped 1%. Bahrain and Qatar bourses were flat. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.